Hey guys. So, last week we talked about what we need to do to get ready and position ourselves to be a part of a coming revival. And not just economically, but a personal revival. And I think that part of this revival could be a revival of your heart. And that could look like reconnecting or connecting more deeply to our passions, our interests, and even our dreams, the things that fuel us, the things that make us come alive. So we could be feeling a pull, being called more deeply into our purpose. And that's really awesome. That's really exciting. Do you guys remember at the beginning of the year we talked about a theme for the year? And we all kind of talked about our own theme and what a theme could be. And one of the examples was the one of the themes was just spending more time doing the things that make you come alive. So more time in pursuing interests and passions. Just dedicating more time to put into those things, the things that you love, the things that make you come alive. And I believe that that is part of this revival, of this restoration, is having time to consider and reconnect with the things that are our passions, our interests, our dreams. And dreams is a big one, guys, because what happens a lot of times is as we go through life, as we experience life, as we get older, our dreams go from really big, reaching way up here, to somewhat down here, maybe even settling for a life that falls short of everything that we envisioned, that we dreamed. Now, is it realistic to get everything in life that we have dreamed about? Well, no, probably not. But Jesus has come so that we can have life and have it abundantly, have it to the full. And if we're settling in life, then we're not quite experiencing that, right? We're not quite experiencing that life abundantly and life to the full. So what happens is, as kids, we haven't experienced many failures, many disappointments, or very many things at all that deter us from dreaming without limitations. But as we go through life, we experience more of those failures and disappointments. And our dreams go from up here and they start coming down here. You know, maybe it was dreaming of being an astronaut, right? First person on Mars, and just dreaming without restriction, without limitation. And maybe now a person's dream of being an astronaut, maybe now it's, well, I'd be okay with just being a aeronautical engineer. And you're like, well, that's awesome. That's really cool. But hang on a minute. You wanted to be the one in space. What happened to that? They say something like, oh, well, I had a mentor and told me I just don't have the natural athletic physique to be an astronaut. And it's like, whoa, so your dreams went from way up here to settling down here. Now, if it was, yeah, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a kid, but the more I get into it, I really want to be an aeronautical engineer. Great. All right, that's awesome. But if the purpose is because of failures, because of disappointments, because you stopped believing in yourself, because someone else told you that you can't do it, well, that is the part of you that needs a revival. That's the part of you that can be a part of this revival that is happening. And remember, we talked last week, there are things we need to do to prepare, to position ourselves, to get ready for a revival. But this is part of it. This is huge. Being called further into your purpose, how exciting is that? How awesome is that? Right? To be called further by the one who created you, to be called further into the purpose that you're created for, into that place where you can receive joy and experience freedom and receive fulfillment for the work that you do, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than that. No amount of money, of salary, of fame, of recognition, of status or title can ever compare to life abundantly in Jesus. None of that can ever compare to the joy, freedom, and fulfillment that Jesus has for you in the purpose that he created you for. Guys, so this is a big part of the revival, a revival of the heart. And remember, we talked about the heart before. It's not just the organ that pumps blood. When I say heart, I'm talking about the sum of all that you are, the sum of all that is you. Remember the quote from the Next Level Entrepreneur? Follow your heart, for it is the truest part about you, more than your soul, your mind, your attitude, your emotions. It is the sum of all that is you. So follow it because it'll guide you well, like a compass points north. So if we're connected to our hearts and we're following it, and we're being pulled deeper and deeper into the purpose that God created us for, that's where we have life and have it to the full and have it abundantly. And life is better there than anything we could try to create for ourselves. When I got out of high school, I jumped straight into being an entrepreneur. I went right into business. And yeah, I mean, I loved the field I was going into. I had a passion for what I was doing. But I will admit that a driving factor was I want to make it big. You know, I want to show all the naysayers that I can do this, and I want to have more money than anyone else in my family, and I want to be able to show off my house and my car, and I want all this, and that was a motive. And I even found a little bit of success there. And it didn't feel the way I thought it would. The deepest joy and fulfillment I've ever received is in following Jesus, is in being called deeper into the purpose than I was created for. And at that point, the money, the title, the status, it just doesn't matter. There's so much joy and freedom and fulfillment from the impact you're making in the purpose that you're created for. So I can't say it enough, guys. Part of this revival is a revival of the heart. So what about the naysayers? Now, what about the people who, maybe you open up a little bit. Maybe you share with somebody you trust, someone in your family, a close friend, relative, something, but you share with them what you're feeling called deeper into. And maybe they don't respond the way you thought they would. Maybe they respond with hesitation. Maybe they're not sure how to respond. Maybe they're just straight up shoot it down, right? You thought they would be overjoyed, but they weren't. Have you guys experienced anything like that? I certainly have. When I was going right out of high school and starting the gym, I remember things like, so you just want to work out your whole life? Like, shouldn't you get a job or something, or study something, get a degree? I'm like, no, you don't understand. But the thing was that I had the vision for it. I had the dream. They didn't. So they didn't quite understand it. But a lot of times, the people who will be the biggest naysayers when it comes to us pursuing our purpose are the people that are closest to us. So why is that? If we share our dreams and our passions and our interests with people we don't know very well, mostly the response is pretty positive. It's like, oh yeah, that's really cool, man. Cool, good for you. Yeah, go and do that. Oh, that sounds great, right? But then we get around the people who are closest to us, our closest friends, our family, our relatives, and the response changes. It goes from positive encouragement to concern. And it's like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, what I found is that the purpose that God has for you will undoubtedly take you outside of your comfort zone. And if you're outside of your comfort zone, that probably makes the people who care about you most uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable, or if they think that you're going down a path where you're going to struggle, maybe you'll be scrutinized, maybe you're going into a profession that is controversial, whatever it is, if they think that you'll have a hard time there, if they think you might struggle financially, if they think that people won't respond well to you, whatever it is, if they think you'll be uncomfortable, that makes them uncomfortable. And that response of concern is coming from a place of care and probably love for you. Even though it's not quite the response, we might think we would get by sharing our deepest dreams and passions with the people closest to us. The response is usually concern. So, I read a book called The Dream Giver, and I want to share just a little piece of it. I would really recommend this book. This book is absolutely great for anyone who is feeling called into their purpose, called into further into their dreams, into their passions, and being called into turning interests into a career. They're moving toward their calling. Anyone who is feeling called more deeply into their calling, this book is great for them. I read the book. I've read it multiple times. It's a parable. It's a story. So it's really cool, and it's really, really encouraging. Like I said, especially if you're at a point in your life where you're feeling called more deeply into the purpose that you were created for. So let me share with you just quickly a little bit from this. The main character is a boy named Ordinary, and he lives in a town called Familiar. And one day, he's given a dream. He's visited by the Dream Giver, who is God. And he is filled with this vision, with this dream of what his purpose in life is. And he gets a glimpse of it. And it's beaming so brightly in his chest. But in order to fulfill it, in order to live there, he would have to leave his town of Familiar. He would have to walk to the edge of town and step over the border of that familiar comfort that he lives in. Does that kind of sound familiar? I definitely related to it. So, he decides to do it. He quits his job and he leaves Familiar. Now, in the story, Ordinary quits his job. To fulfill your purpose and your passion, I'm not saying you gotta go quit your job, okay? I'm not saying that. But in the story, Ordinary was all in. He was on board with the Dream Giver, and he was going for it. He quit his job, and he walks to the edge of town. And at the edge of town, he sees his mom, his dad, his uncle, and his best friend waiting for him there. And when he gets there and walks up to them, they say, "Man, what in the world are you doing? Why would you leave this place of, you have a steady job, this is comfortable, where this is familiar, why would you leave this to go out there? We don't know what's out there. We don't know what's going to happen to you out there. This dream is crazy. Why would you leave this to go pursue this?" Because they didn't understand it. Okay, the dream was given to him, not them. Okay, so they didn't quite understand it. So he goes and sits down by a stream, and he's visited by someone he knows, by someone else who left Familiar to pursue their dream. And he comes and ministers to him. He comes and gives him some encouragement, and he helps Ordinary to understand that not everybody is going to get on board with him leaving Familiar to be called deeper and follow God more deeply into his purpose, into what he was created for. So he goes back, he listens to his mom and his dad and his uncle and his best friend. He thanks them for their counsel, and while none are still really persuaded, maybe they might understand a little bit more, but they still don't want him to leave. His uncle is kind of bitter, kind of like, well, who do you think you are? No one in our family is left familiar. His mom is more like, I really don't want you to go, but if you feel like you need to, I'll support you. His dad's still pretty on the fence, and his best friend is like, dude, don't do this. But Ordinary makes the decision to follow God more deeply into his purpose, and he steps over and crosses the border of his familiar town. So, for the rest of the story, get the book, The Dream Giver. It's awesome. It's by Bruce Wilkinson. Read that book, and I would love to talk more in depth with all of you about the whole story and how it relates to you and what it means for you in your life and what you're pursuing. So just remember that part of this revival is a revival of the heart, is connecting you more deeply to your purpose and your passions, and maybe you're even feeling a tug. You're feeling a tug to follow God more deeply into the purpose that you were created for. And I encourage you to follow God into that, because there is life to the full to be had in following God more deeply into your purpose. There may be naysayers, and there may be people who don't understand. You don't have to openly rebel against them. Don't burn any bridges if you can help it. But at the end of the day, I encourage you to follow God as he leads you more deeply in this revival of your heart and more deeply into the purpose that he created you for. So, we're going to be on Zoom tonight at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm going to put a link in the description in this video if you guys want to get on and talk live with me and some other guys that might jump in, other friends and allies, in this mission of pursuing life, pursuing Jesus, following Jesus, living for Jesus, repenting, trusting, and surrendering to Jesus. That's what we're about, because we're after the life and the life abundantly that Jesus has for us. So if you want to jump in, get in on the discussion, we talk about this, anything else you have going on, we can pray with each other as friends and allies, and just encourage each other to continue to overcome the challenges in life and grow closer to God every day, and continue to move with God more deeply into the purpose that he has for us. So we'll be on Zoom tonight, 8 p.m. Hope to see some of you then. Hope you all are doing well. And I hope to see you in person, whether that's sometime this week or on church on Sunday. But we'll just love to see you guys. So comment, let me know what you think of this. Let me know what's going on in your life. Are you feeling a tug? Are you feeling pulled more deeply into a purpose? Are there naysayers? How's that going? No, what's going on in your heart during this time of revival? Let me know that. Let me know that in the comments, and I'd love to talk to you more. So hope y'all are doing well, and I'll talk to you again soon.